Yours.
Yeah. Hi. Timo LOHENOJA from F5 Network. So there's going to be a couple of things. There's going to be a bunch of things about SSL, of course, because it's also in the agenda for part-time, but also about application security. Two very important topics nowadays. I used to work for multiple different companies that were doing networking before I joined F5. I started from Nokia Networks, which was basically a company that was doing mobile networks. And that scene was very, very different what it is in networking otherwise. We are pretty much in the world that is all about IP and all about applications nowadays. SSL has become kind of a part of that. It's a big, big part. My colleague was originally meant to come here. My colleague Marcel was about to do this one. So I'm kind of honoring Marcel here a little bit and doing also this part very quickly. Where the world is actually going from the part of SSL, everything is more about a zero trust model. You cannot really build security around networks anymore that much because the application itself is moving outside. So the idea of doing zero trust is that you provide secure access to applications no matter where they reside. And that's why there is SSL. That's originally it was invented by Netscape, and the first versions of SSL were made by Netscape, and then it turned into TLS. And nowadays we are going in TLS 1.2. So world is moving towards different times. How it used to be, application security-wise and generally security-wise, everything's turning into application. Security measures and everything else around it have been built around this model. So there is normally perimeter security. There's security built that your applications users are in your premises or they use your provided remote access methodology. There's a lot of ideas that you do installation to your mobile devices, you do installations to your laptops that are some application that is doing monitoring of security. It's very old way of doing things to install agents all around and making it very complex, but that's how things are built. Policies are built around the perimeter security. What happens right now, and happens faster and faster, there's migration cloud. The cloud migration basically means that applications are moving out from your own perimeter, and it becomes apparent that your policies, security policies, user accounts, user account management is built in your on-premise implementation. In cloud platforms, every different cloud is providing different kind of security solution for usernames and passwords, but they are not necessarily supporting any kind of security itself. The security implementation itself is up to you. So if you move something to the cloud, you need to figure out how you do your security solutions. What I see a lot of times is that you move your firewalls there. Does it really apply there? They have their own networks, their own infrastructure. It doesn't make too much sense to do firewalling there unless you want to do logging and understanding what is going through the firewalling infra in there. Otherwise, it's the application that is actually important when it goes to the cloud. But when you go to this one, it's not very unified access to the cloud unless you do federation and start thinking about this differently. Normally, there is the concept of BYOD, bring your own device, bring your own application. There's the BYODA idea also in there, so your mobile users are, or external users are allowed to do certain things, and then you provide VPN access for that. Generally, that's applying for the model that you have your branch office and you have your head office. Nowadays, SSL is moving forward. Everything is moving towards SSL. Last year, SSL traffic average was somewhere around 15 to 30% in the networks. This year, we have already seen that there's 30 to 70% traffic in SSL because of HTTP 2.0. There's a lot of applications that have been rewritten to HTML5. So it changes things. There's forced security around the applications and sites that are being published in the internet that is secured by SSL. And nowadays we cannot go for stronger certificates really. We cannot go too much beyond the 2048-bit certificates because of the mobile devices, Internet of Everything, so forth. But to see inside the SSL traffic, that seems to getting very much more difficult as it is. And of course, when you move your applications to the cloud, and if you don't take care of the security of the applications in the cloud, well, they are very much available. There's a lot of weaknesses, known weaknesses in the platforms where you move the applications. It's very much available for attacking traffic. It's very much available for bots and suspicious users, bad actors. What happens right now, and what I've seen with last 6 years, I used to be a business manager in one integrator that was covering Finland and Baltics. Also, some of the members from that companies are located here. Investment, business-wise, seems to be easy to do when you do security investment to network. You can say that, hey, we have firewall, we have IPS, we have IDS, we have malware detection, but it's all network-based functions, and which are pretty much the transportation channel for the application data itself. Seeing inside the traffic is very much more interesting. Very few attacks really happen on the network level. The target of the attacks really rely around applications. Applications include the interesting data. There's the user data. Everything that happens when the user is using application, that's inside the application. Whatever the web application is it a network bank, is it a Facebook, is it a Google, there's always something interesting in there. But only 10% of security investment goes here, because this is the hard topic to understand. Normally the security is being thrown at the network guys. I was a network guy for 15 years before I started to do this. So I have very good understanding of that, what it's to try to understand the application security world. This is something that I'm still studying and still getting into because it's a very interesting world. Application happens all the time. So the traditional model, really, the network perimeter model, this is dying out because very few people, very few companies are ready to invest a lot of money to the local infra. It's easier to buy it from the cloud or somewhere else. So security, building the security around the application is the smart move. Do the firewalling in application level. If you do firewalling in the network, use next generation firewalls. If you really want to firewall the application, use WAF, web application firewalling. Topic that is normally understood by the coders, application developers, but not really so much in the security professional scene yet. So do WAF. Protect the application, do strong encryption, use SSL, use TLS 1.2, use the latest algorithms, use the best practices in there. Protect how the application really works. When you build the protection around the application can move anywhere. Once you have understanding how the application works and you have strong security, you can do policies. An application can be this year in one place and next year in different, but the security is basically following the application itself. It's not so much dependent which kind of firewalls you have or which kind of implementation you have done in the on-premise implementation. So rethink the architecture, how you do things. Think about the applications because those are defining what your users are using, where the data is lying, and where the interesting stuff is being located. So applications are the gateway to data, really. Application is the new perimeter, so you need to think about that. It's kind of a long time ago when Steve Jobs said that if there's going to be app for everything. So now we are moving towards that world that everything is in an app. 3 days ago, I had to reboot my refrigerator at home. So we get to the point when you need to reboot your refrigerator because it has IoT entities in there. I have one of those Samsung fridges that has cameras in it, and there's a touchscreen display outside of that, which is very cool, so you can surf the internet while you make coffee in the morning and your breakfast. So that's very cool, but it's also a very good vector to do DDoS attacks and also leak what I have in my fridge. So somebody from Romania or China can think about like what the hell TIMO is having there. There's only beer and butter and bread there. Like, okay, normal Finnish diet, right? So yeah, what is happening right now? Today, average is about 30% of average company traffic is around SSL, TLS, 30%. There are already companies that are at the 70% scene because applications, internet traffic is moving towards encrypt the traffic, encrypt everything. This is what's happening right now, and this is a very interesting thing. If you have now firewall, how many of those are actually doing decryption of your traffic? How many security devices in your network are really decrypting the traffic that is going through it as a total? So what is driving this whole thing? E-commerce, privacy, yeah, sure, but mobility. We can say Edward Snowden. Yeah, Snowden revealed that we are being spied at. Every time that you use Google, for example, you are the product because you are providing free data to Google. You can use Google services without payment, but it's by no means free because Google is selling your data. And Snowden kind of made it a public information that, hey, by the way, it's not just Google, it's Facebook, it's also governmental entities. It's not US only. There are some multiple other places where this thing is happening and ongoing all the time. What is happening right now, there's a new version of TLS coming out. Next year there should be TLS 1.3. What we've seen at F5 and also what I saw at the previous job is that there's a lot of push from vendors that can do TLS handling and application protection that you need to buy now the solution. But the problem is that when you go to TLS 1.3, there's ECC, PFS type of combinations, or there's a new encryption algorithms and many solutions that can do that decrypt the SSL or TLS traffic. They are not upgradable by the protocol or by the hardware solution what they are. So you need to buy every time the new hardware or do some kind of a gimmick thing there that is not very easy to implement before you can get it to work. Things that drive this forward, Internet of Everything, HTTP 2.0, speedy algorithm, heavy encryption. Those are things that are actually moving this thing forward. Internet of Everything, most of that traffic is now encrypted. So the small stupid devices that were used 2 weeks ago to the biggest DDoS attack in the whole world, that was affecting the performance of all internet. That's the biggest DDoS vector, by the way, the whole Internet of Everything. All the applications there are vulnerable and it's not very security manner implementation, but they use certificates. Cool. They understand what that's all about. The big thing is the grading of the certificates. Big thing about SSL protection, application protection. When you publish application, you want to get it visible. In Google, you get better grading when you have heavier scoring in SSL labs. How many of you have used SSL labs? Good. So you know what it is. So when you have good encryption, when you have heavy encryption, then you will get good grading in Google and you will probably get to the first page of Google, or you have better probability to get there. That's one thing that is driving the better encryption because you go for the scoring of the encrypted data. Right. Of course, one reason to upgrade also is all the vulnerabilities in SSL. Industry trends. Google is driving HTTPS by ranking, but also HTTP 2.0. Everything from Google are HTTP 2.0 mainly. PCI DSS, that's driving heavier encryption, better implementation of TLS to get PCI DSS compliancy. Firefox is now making pop-ups that if you have a site that is not HTTPS site, it says that it's probably unreliable source of information because it's not encrypted. That will happen later this year. It's not happening yet, but it will happen a little bit later on. HTTP 2.0, it's all TLS. If you're not familiar, spend a little bit time of that. I'm pretty sure that all these presentations will be also available after the event, so you can get the links from there, or just Google around HTTP 2.0. It's very interesting because you get a lot of performance through that, but also security by implementing HTTP 2.0. Right. So where we are right now, 1994, there was the first SSL. SSL 1 and 2 made by Netscape. SSL 3 came at 1996. Then there was a couple of years, and then there was TLS 1.0, and then TLS 1.1 in 2006. The current version that we are using is from year 2008, TLS 1.2, where everybody should be at. But still we see every year implementations of SSL 3.0 in front of applications. So not very secure, because all those are obsolete. They are deprecated technologies. You should go with TLS 1.1 or 1.2 and use certificates that are 2048-bit RSA keyed. So you have public and private key in 2048 bits. That's where we should be at. TLS 1.3 is coming next year. Still, it's draft. But a lot of companies are waiting for this to be published before they implement their new hardware solutions and software solutions for TLS. But it's going to be next year, definitely. IATF is still stating that as a draft. So what's the problem? When we have SSL, SSL is causing performance. When you do protection through SSL to your applications, it's degrading the performance of your hardware. If you have multiple different security devices, you want to do decryption of TLS, and you have 2048-bit private and public keys. Performance degradation, according to NSS Lab, is anything between 36 to 96% in the hardware. And then you have to manage all the private keys in every different device, which is going to be painful. I can guarantee you that from the history. Well, what will happen when things are moving to SSL? There's a lot of traffic passing through your network, and we get the problem, stormtrooper problem. Those were actually the droids that you were looking for, but you couldn't look inside because you didn't understand what the freaking was going on in the network, really. So we end up with a problem. It's basically a visibility gap in the network when there's SSL. Interesting stuff from the same report, and actually from the Gartner report as well. There's a lot of things that security devices cannot understand, and SSL and TLS are a couple of those. If you have ever turned on decryption of SSL TLS traffic, it will break something. You will see that there are broken pages, or you will get wrong certificates or something else, complaints from your end users, or it will decrypt something that it's not supposed to decrypt in the end, which is very problematic. So looking into this, it's very, very interesting topic from this side. Well, looking into security otherwise, still, even last week, very large global company told me that they are thinking about implementing URL filtering as a new technology. Woo! Really, like, oh yeah, that was something that was supposed to be done like 14 years ago, maybe. Not this year, really. But we get to this, that now consideration that, yeah, maybe we should go for the next generation firewall. Yeah, cool, go for it. It's not something that you shouldn't do. It's something that you should definitely do, but it was already 8 years ago when that kind of happened. So still, having like good security solution in place, it's still very rare. In many places, it's that, well, we have firewall, and yeah, we have antivirus installed, and yeah, we have actually 3 different antivirus implementations in the network, and this is very secure. So they probably will catch all the bad stuff. It's not that easy. There's network level, and then there's the application level. Understanding that, plus tackling the SSL problem, that's what you're looking for in there. In many cases, it looks like this. There is something, next generation firewall, IDS, IPS, DLP, sandboxing. You normally have this kind of combo if you have a little bit modern implementation, and if you do SSL decryption there, it will probably affect the performance a little bit. You don't really know because it depends which kind of devices you have there, how big of a boxes they are. What has happened, what has really driven this situation into this mode where we are right now, all the nice vulnerabilities in SSL. You have seen multiples of those. It's keeping things interesting when there's new serious vulnerability out there, which will basically affect the SSL. So SSL, basic SSL, 3.0, 2.0, 1.1, 1.0, they are all deprecated technologies because they are vulnerable. So that basically translated towards the favoring of TLS, plus then there was Snowden, and then there's HTTP 2.0, all the regulation, perfect forward secrecy, new standards, new encryption. There's a lot of things that are moving this thing forward. So pretty soon, there's going to be 70% of encrypted traffic, and 100% of malware are going to use this stuff. So when there is something interesting in the back end, something that can be tailored, of course the malware writers, bot writers, backdoor makers, they are using the most latest technology because they know the stuff that, hey, the next generation firewalls, IPS, IDS, they cannot see if it's SSL, TLS. That's very logic to kind of use, right? So, and there's huge cost for the performance. Plus, you have a problem with the keys. Every device needs to have the private key to decrypt the traffic in front of the applications. So if you have Bob and Alice, which are very favorable if you have done security certification, you know who they are. How to do this thing? Do nothing. Very common option, yeah. Buy an insurance. Actually, it's not there, but buy an insurance. Accept the risk, yeah. That's in the category of do nothing. Do daisy chaining. Yeah, that's yeah, you can do that. You can try. Call me or send an email, timo@f5.com. I want to hear how that went. Or you can do orchestration of things. Orchestrate. Orchestration is nowadays a hot topic. SDN, you know. So there's a way of doing it. We are doing it through one product or the load balancing platform that we've been doing for ages, for 20 years. You can orchestrate things. You can decrypt the traffic, terminate the SSL, and replicate the traffic to security devices. So you can do SSL decryption, encryption in one point, orchestrate where the traffic is going, handle the service chaining, which devices you want to make visible for the traffic that is passing through. Especially it's important for different sandboxing devices and DLB gateways and so forth. They are very much interested what is actually passing in the network most of the time. Oops, what did I do? This is a very good option of doing protection from the SSL side. This is a hot topic. This is something that you should consider because there's going to be a whole GDPR thing coming in 2018. And there, if you want to do modern security, you need to see first in the traffic before you can do anything about the traffic, if it's in the network level or if it's applying to applications. Because of the very short time that I have here today, there's the application security part. That was for Marcel, my colleague, that couldn't make it today. So application security, my favorite topic, of course. This is why I'm at F5. I'm not really a load balancer guy. I'm application security guy nowadays, also ex-network guy. Two things that you need to do in the security nowadays. Handle the identities and access management of users, and how do you protect the applications? Applications are very vulnerable nowadays, so there's a lot of bad coding. There's a OWASP top 10 that is always an issue. You need to do protection for the application, no matter where it resides. When it's in different clouds, it's in different clouds. But then you need to go for the zero trust that I mentioned before. Zero trust is pretty much driving the SSL inspection and interception concept there. If you want to see inside the traffic that is caused by the users towards applications and applications back to users, you need to intercept the SSL traffic without affecting the performance of the whole infrastructure. And in future, when this model is applied, you don't spend too much money to put the firewalls in the cloud. You're probably using the local containers that are there to open the ports and then to protect the actual application, how the application works. Do WAF. How many of you have ever configured a WAF or know what WAF is? Very good. Best audience so far. I've been doing this for 2 months, and in some cases it's been like, no idea. Yeah, I know. I was there too. But yeah, doing a WAF. Our WAF has been there for 14 years. We are still the most implemented WAF in the world as a F5. Our WAF is called ASM, which doesn't make any sense as an abbreviation. It's Application Security Manager. I never use those, but I know what they are. So our WAF has been very much implemented since 14 years ago when it came up to actually protect the application, how the application works and make the application secure. Protect the application from DDoS attacks. I still hear that there's no DDoS attack that will apply to application. Right. So that's an DDoS attack that you cannot see, right? Because that happens in 8 minutes since you put your application. If it looks very sensitive and interesting, you get in 8 minutes, you get a bot to your application when you put it to Azure. And maybe if it's interesting that maybe we should take it down and take some bribe, maybe. It might be in 23 minutes when you have the first DDoS in the application. Some search field if you put some vulnerable application there. You will see it in less than half an hour nowadays. So DDoS is very interesting due to application. Network is easy to do. Anyone can do it. Anyone can go to, anyone can go to YouTube and learn how to do it. Right. So DDoS protection, DNS protection, how the applications respond. DNS is the way to do it. So normally DNS is nowadays slow. Protect the DNS, make it secure, use DNS security, plus make it respond faster. Right. How about the user side? Well, identity federation. Don't put the identities to cloud, keep them in your own possession, and federate. Use SAML, use open authentication, OpenID. Those are the ones that you should use there. Don't synchronize, don't use ADFS and synchronize all the stuff to Microsoft Cloud. It goes to Ireland, and when it fails over, where does it fail over to? Asia or US? You can think about that. So anyways, think about the user security, identity federation, strong encryption, strong authentication. When I said that WAF is important, I mean it. WAF does different things than IPS or next generation firewall. Doesn't overlap, but it understands the application, how that works. So doing protection through WAF, do testing, do POCs. You can actually see what the application is really doing. Also, the application developers, they value this one because they can see actually on the first time how the application is communicating with the end user, what it does, where the heavy URL is located, is there any vulnerabilities, what are the different kind of types of devices that are using the application and so forth. Very interesting stuff. Do POC. If you want to get licenses, if you want to get help on this one, I'm at our booth and we can have longer discussion on this topic, but this is important. When you do the application protection, do it smart, invest money, do policies, actually do something that is, what's happening? Half of the, yeah, I know, there is a few more minutes. But yeah, there is actually, weird. Somebody heard what I said and didn't like it, obviously. But think about the DDoS protection, think about the application protection, handle the TLS, do investment, have some kind of understanding how the applications really work, and understand the policies that are being applied on-premise, convert those to application-based policies. Then you don't need to have complex security mechanisms. You protect the application, do secure application access. Your users don't need to use VPNs anymore. Net browser is good enough. No more agents. Don't make it too complex. Make it more usable. The application's available through any... Wow. Now everybody falls asleep. This is always risky business after lunch. But yeah, anyways, there's a... Do it smart. Think about what you're doing as a whole picture. Yeah, somebody's having an attack of the IoT device on the wall right now. That's what's happening. Having this discussion, do comprehensive security around the applications and understand that. Don't forget the networking part as far as it's relevant, but also prepare that it's not going to be relevant forever. It has to be changed and live according to the world. Do application access smart, secure, federate, use mobility access management when it's needed, filter traffic according to URL, and do remote access. Also, protect the applications, SSL inspection, DNS security, web application firewalling, anti-fraud. Encrypt traffic in the application level inside the application when needed. 3 things in security: confidentiality, availability, and integrity. Take care of that because it's always, those are the 3 corners of security that you need to always remember. In our cases, we do it a little bit differently. We do risk-based policies for the applications. Keep the applications confidential. Also user access confidential. Also keep the data secure and visible, so when you do the SSL inspection. We have solutions for that. You can do it with virtual machines. You can do it with hardware. It doesn't really matter where the applications reside. Multiple options to do it. So hybrid delivery, that's what is availability. We started from load balancers. It was all about application availability. We still do that, and it's our cornerstone for existence. And no big company really owns us. We are our own still in this market. So there has been multiple times somebody trying to buy us. But hey, anyways, if you have more questions, more things to talk about, you can find me and Vivi from the booth right next to a coffee point in the lower level hall. Okay. Thank you.
Questions?